For 5 years, my parents told everyone in our family I stole $40,000 from my grandmother. I hadn't. It took a recording made in a hospice room days before she died to finally prove it. I'm 36 years old, and 5 years ago, my grandmother Rosa, who lived with my parents in her final years, discovered that $40,000 from her savings account was missing. She'd asked me, months earlier, to help her set up online banking so she could check her balance without driving to the branch every week. That single fact was apparently all my parents needed. Within days, my mother was convinced I'd used that access to transfer the money out gradually, small enough amounts to avoid suspicion over several months. My father didn't need much convincing either. I was the only grandchild who'd ever touched her online accounts, and in their minds, that made me the only possible answer. I denied it, repeatedly, presented my own bank statements showing no unusual deposits, offered to have a forensic accountant review everything. None of it mattered. Once my parents decided on a story, evidence became something to explain away rather than something to actually consider. For 5 years, I was uninvited from family gatherings, quietly at first, then openly. My mother told relatives I'd taken advantage of an elderly woman who trusted me. My father stopped speaking to me almost entirely, communicating only through short, cold messages when absolutely necessary. Rosa herself never fully accused me, but she also never fully defended me either. She'd grown noticeably confused in her final year, her memory slipping in ways that made it easy for my parents to fill in gaps with whatever story served them best. I visited her twice during that year. Brief, tense visits my mother monitored closely, always ending before Rosa and I could really talk. I spent those 5 years grieving a relationship with my parents that technically still existed on paper, but had completely hollowed out underneath. I stopped trying to defend myself around year 3, exhausted by a fight I couldn't seem to win with facts alone. Rosa passed away in a hospice facility last winter. A volunteer program there had recorded oral history sessions with residents in their final weeks, simple conversations about their lives, meant as keepsakes for families. My mother hadn't mentioned this recording existed until the funeral home handed over Rosa's belongings, including a small memory card. We watched it together as a family, expecting old stories about Rosa's childhood. Instead, about 20 minutes in, Rosa mentioned, almost in passing, that she'd given her son-in-law, my father, $40,000 2 years earlier to help with his business troubles, and that she'd asked him not to mention it to anyone because she didn't want the family knowing his company was struggling. The room went silent. My mother's face went pale. My father said nothing at all. I asked my father directly if it was true. He didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. Eventually, he admitted his contracting business had nearly collapsed 5 years ago, that Rosa had quietly helped him stay afloat, and that when the missing money surfaced in her accounts around the same time, blaming me had felt easier than explaining his own failure to my mother and the rest of the family. "You let me lose 5 years of my family," I said, "because you were embarrassed." He didn't have a real answer for that either. My mother apologized that night, the first real apology I'd heard from either of them in 5 years. My father's apology came slower, and honestly, still feels incomplete. We're rebuilding something, carefully, but 5 years of being called a thief by your own parents doesn't undo itself in one conversation, no matter how clear the recording made everything. I think about Rosa often, about how she carried my father's secret quietly to protect him, never once realizing the cost it was putting on someone else in the family. I don't think she ever knew what I'd lost because of it. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do by people who were supposed to believe you first, I hope the truth reaches you sooner than it reached me. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like this one.